think. Can, let's kind of go through a bunch of different talking points that people love to do, since I have a real optical guy here. 3D pop. What is it really? What do people think it is? What generates it? How do you determine it? Give us a full explanation that you can with 3D pop, because I hear 5,000 different things, and I think every single one of them I was wrong on. So,
Well, maybe I'll give the wrong,
I mean,
wrong answer.
you can't be worse than me. I'm batting zero.
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to think of some. Well, we'll stay out of politics, but I'm trying to think of some political equivalent of like nobody knows. Like,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. So, I guess really what you're looking at is you can just boil it down to what I was talking about earlier, which are the basics of an optical design, right? So you've got distortion, you have resolution, contrast, and all these things are kind of connected. But you're really talking about distortion, and we're not talking about spherical distortion at the edges. We're talking about the subtle things that when you stack multiple spherical and aspherical elements, there's different portions of the frame that kind of go in and out subtly, and the more of that transition you can make to where your distortion is significantly different at the edges than the middle or somewhere in between, that's kind of that pop. So one thing that people love about Sigma lenses and the Zeiss, previously the Zeiss CP2, 3, nano, these types of no, nano's not fair, but the photo lenses, the other ones, the CP series, that were basically their photo lenses and a gear housing. When you do that, really what you're seeing is you're seeing this very sharp transition because the elements are very close together. It's designed for photo, so the elements are small. You don't need a lot of transition there in a photograph. And so what you see is this very like cutout kind of look. And so if the lens is high enough contrast combined with a very compressed distortion, so there's not a lot of separation there, maybe that's what you're saying by pop. If you're talking about the way that a subject stands out versus the background, again, it's all dealing with distortion, which there's a connection between contrast, apparent resolution, because you're talking about edge details. So if it's really good at defining the edge details, that'll make it stand out. So
I mean,
I don't know if that
3D
answers.
pop. I mean, I had only ever heard 3D pop from Cook Pancrose, and basically was where I think the term came from, and then somehow it got magnified onto every possible lens. Oh, this lens has 3D pop. This lens doesn't, and I, yeah, I'm kind of lost at the how one could be and could not be, and what to look for, because I was figuring roll off would have a huge play in that, but
Yeah, yeah, it's the fall off. It's the distortion in the way that the lens behaves from subject to background, and that has to do with the spacing of the elements, the way that it handles that distortion, the corrections that the optical designer makes. Like I said, with the Vista Primes, we very intentionally made it so that it's sharp in the corners at VistaVision and also sharp in the corners at Super 35. So you got kind of this rolling distortion that goes out, and and really that's what Cook was doing, rightfully so. Because if you take a lens and you project it on a white, if you shoot a white like slide, the slide viewers,
mm-hmm.
a white background, you backlit, you put them up there. That's how we test coverage on lenses. CVP in the UK, they have a very good tool on their website that shows coverage on a white background, and you can see how much it falls off. So like a Vista Prime inside of the intended format is totally flat. Like there's no difference in exposure between edges and the center in the intended format. And if you put the same Cook lens on there, it's going to look like you're shining a flashlight on there. It's going to be really dark in the corners, or relatively dark, depending on the design, of course, like the S8 and other modern ones know. But that's what Cook is talking about. They're talking about that transition, or we call it fall off. So that's the term 3D pop, and generally you're going to find that in older lenses because of the way that the spherical elements kind of just rolled off into the edges of the format. So yeah.